Hello everybody, this is Cap of cODeAclysm, and I would like to welcome you to the fourth tutorial in my beginner C++ tutorial series. So in this tutorial we are going to be covering if, else if, and possibly switch statements depending on how far we get. So far in these tutorials, all we've done is write little programs that execute, each line at a time all the way down to the end. And we really have no control over the flow of the program. This is known as sequence. So in programming, there are three basic structures that all programs are made up of. There's sequence, which is what we've used so far, selection, and iteration. And in this video, and possibly the next, we are going to be covering selection. So with selection, we have quite a bit more control over the flow of our program. So the first thing I'm going to cover here is the if statement. So the syntax for the if statement is the if keyword followed by parentheses followed by braces. So in these parentheses, we want to have a condition that evaluates to either true or false. If it evaluates to true, it is going to run whatever is in between these braces. If it evaluates to false, it will just skip over them and go along, with the program, with whatever statements are below the if statement. So if we just outright say this is true, and say we want it to print out it will run, it is going to print this out no matter what because the condition is true. So another little, a bit of a more complex example here is I'm going to declare two shorts. Thing1, oops, I always do that, is equal to 20. Short thing2 is equal to 40. So now we're going to test to see if the value of thing1 and the value of thing2 are equal. So we're going to do thing1 equal thing2. And then if they are equal, we will have it print out the value of thing1. So Control S, Control F5, and as you can see, it did not run it because of course 20 is not equal to 40. So something you guys need to kind of watch out for here is to make sure to use the equal to operator, not the assignment operator. If you use the assignment operator, it is going to assign the value of thing2 to thing1 and then run the block of code. So let's get rid of one of them and then come down here and also print out thing2, Control S, Control F5, and as you can see, it ran the block of code and changed the value of thing1 to 40. So that's something you guys need to watch out for while you're writing and using if statements, because technically there's nothing syntactically wrong with it, so the compiler's not going to flag it. It is a logic error, and if you guys have a few hundred or even a few thousand lines of code and you make this mistake, you may be searching through the code for a while to try and find it. So you want to be really, really careful when you're using this. So there are 6 different comparison operators that you can use in conditions within if statements. So there's the one that I've already shown, equal to operator, which tests whether the value of thing1 is equal to the value of thing2, and there's also the not equal to, which tests to see if the value of thing1 is not equal to thing2. And if we run that, it of course runs it because 20 is not equal to 40. So next we have, of course, the less than operator, which will also run because 20 is less than 40. We have the greater than operator, which will not run it because, of course, 20 is not greater than 40. We have the less than or equal to operator. So if thing 1 is less than or equal to 40, it will run the statements. So in this one, it will run it because, of course, 20 is less than 40. And then we also have greater than or equal to. So if thing 1 is greater than or equal to 40, it will execute the statements in this block here, which of course it's not, so it won't execute those. And those are the 6 comparison operators that you can use in conditional statements, or well, in the condition inside the parentheses of an if, or really, any sort of condition within, while loops or if statements, else ifs, switch, that kind of stuff. Well, not within a switch, but we'll get to that probably in the next video. So another thing worth mentioning here is that if you only have one statement that you want to execute, if the condition evaluates to true, just do less than here, you can omit the braces. So as you can see, it still ran it. But you can only do it if you have one statement. I often advise against this because it does open you up to a lot of confusion and, certain types of errors. Not only you, but other people that may be reading and modifying your code. So the next thing we're going to look at here is the else statement. So let's get our braces back here, and then let's have a little else statement. So what this is going to do is it's going to catch the flow of your program if the condition in the if statement evaluates to false. So if we have changed this to a greater than, just put true here. Man. And then come down here and put false. Control S, Control F5. As you can see, since the condition in the if statement evaluated to false, it ran the else statement. So you might be thinking, well, why is else useful then? Why would I use an else when I could just, put it down here and it would run it anyways if it skips over the if statement? Well, that's not all else is useful for. Usually when you use an else, you use it with if and else if statements, or that kind of thing. Sorry about that, guys. I kind of lost my words. So down here, let's try out an else if statement that tests whether thing 1 is less than thing 2. And if it is, we will print out less than. And down here we'll have another else if that tests whether or not thing 1 is greater than or equal to thing 2. And then we'll just print out, you know, GT. Why not? And L. So if we save that, so what this is going to do here is it's first going to test the original if statement to see if thing 1 is greater than thing 2. And if that's false, then it's going to come down here to the else if statement and test if thing 1 is less than thing 2. And if it's true, it's going to run whatever statements are in this block. And if it's false, then it's going to come down here and test whether thing 1 is greater than or equal to thing 2. And run this block of code if it is. And if it isn't, then the else statement is going to catch the flow of our program here. So it's kind of like a catch-all. So if none of these evaluate to true, this is the default code that will run if none of this evaluates to true. So that's kind of what the else is really good at, or useful for. And honestly, in most situations when you'd be using this kind of setup here, you would usually use a switch statement. So if we run this, Control F5, of course it came up with less than, as expected. So you can also have nested if statements, which is basically if statements inside of if statements. So here, inside of this one, we can make another if statement and test to see if thing 1 is equal to thing 2. See out. It is. And L. And I'm going to change this. Let's see here. Greater than or equal to. I'm going to change thing 1 to 40. Control S. So what this is going to do is if thing 1 is greater than or equal to thing 2, it's going to print out true and then test if thing 1 is equal to thing 2. Because here we know it's either greater than or equal to it if it gets past this if statement. So here we're seeing if it's actually equal to it here. And that's kind of the situation where you would use these nested if statements, is in situations where you want to kind of go from a broader range and just kind of narrow your options down to figure out exactly what's going on in your program. So Control F5, and as you can see, print it out true, and it is. So that's about all I'm going to cover on if statements in this video. So we learned about if and else if and else. So now you guys have, quite a bit more control over the flow of your programs. And I would encourage you guys to kind of have fun with this and mix in some user input with CN and do some crazy stuff. That's how you learn, is to practice and sometimes fail. And in the next video I will be covering switch statements, and I'll try to have that out as soon as I can for you guys. Once again, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next tutorial.